reasons? Because since I don't like it, you should tell me. What are the reasons for the sanctions?
The reasons include the proxy terrorist activity that's been, I would argue, I'm sure you are going to disagree with me, but the proxy terrorist activity that Iran has been involved in for decades.
What are these
now.
Who are
Hezbollah,
these terrorists?
Hamas, others arming
Hezbollah
Syria.
So Hezbollah you consider as a terrorist organization, right?
In part.
No. In part?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Well,
is it a terrorist organization? Is Iran's position on Israel is identical to its position on apartheid South Africa. When your government was supporting the supremacist regime in South Africa, the Iranians were supporting the ANC and Nelson Mandela.
Yeah.
The same logic applies to Palestine.
Right. So it's not the existence of Israel, it's the nature of this Israeli state. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, exactly.
That Iran's opposed to.
The state could be called, the state could be called Palestine, it could be called Israel, it could be called Walt Disney, but as an apartheid state for Iran, this is not acceptable.
And
the fastest way to expose a corporate journalist is to apply their own moral standards to the Western establishment. When a British news host tries to corner Professor Said Mohammed Marandi on human rights, he refuses to play defense. Instead, he turns the argument around, accusing Western governments of arming authoritarian regimes, backing Israel, and supporting devastating wars while continuing to lecture others about morality. This is the moment the establishment narrative collides with its own contradictions.
The protests that are taking place, the latest round of protests, they seem to be pretty intense and pretty persistent, up to and including this latest tweet or post from the US president. What do you say is going on there? What do you say those protests are about?
Well, there are two issues here. One is that because of the U.S. sanctions and European sanctions, basically because of Iran's policy against Israel,
What is Iran's policy against Israel?
Yes, because
is it?
The whole sanction, Iran's position?
Against Israel, yeah.
Yeah, Iran says that Israel is an apartheid state. It is not morally legitimate, and that Palestinians have the right to return, just like apartheid South Africa.
That it shouldn't
and
exist.
And back then,
that it shouldn't exist. It's not. Is that what you mean?
As an apartheid entity, no. Apartheid should not exist anyway. When your government was supporting...
I'm just trying to get a sense because you're close to the Iranian regime. I want to get a sense of whether...
What does that mean exactly? I'm close to the Iranian regime. Is that how you introduce academics from your own country?
No. In the way that I know that I'm close in terms of having easy access to and contact with and conversations with members of the cabinet. That's all I meant. I didn't mean...
Would you call them the regime?
Well,
would you say it like the...
Do you want to go into that?
Yeah, sure. Well, what's the question?
Well, have there been regular democratic elections that?
No, you were talking about Israel.
Oh, okay. We'll go back
Iran's
to that.
position on Israel.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get a sense of whether
Iran's position on Israel is identical to its position on apartheid South Africa. When your government was supporting the supremacist regime in South Africa, the Iranians were supporting the ANC and Nelson Mandela.
Yeah.
The same logic applies to Palestine.
Right. So it's not the existence of Israel, it's the nature of this Israeli state. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, exactly.
That Iran's opposed to.
The state could be called Palestine, it could be called Israel, it could be called Walt Disney, but as an apartheid state for Iran, this is not acceptable.
And isn't Iran something of an apartheid state, particularly if you're a woman?
Have you ever been to Iran?
No, but there's lots of countries I haven't been to that I know about, hear about, read about, speak to.
It's not an apartheid state. No, it's not an apartheid state.
Women are dragged off the street for not wearing the veil?
No, that's not true at all.
It is true.
Well, you can say it's true, but that doesn't make it a fact.
I think most people listening know that it is true.
I live in Iran. Many journalists come to Iran. Journalists that you can invite, Jewish journalist Max Blumenthal from the Grey Zone, invite him on your show. And he's been to Iran just recently for a couple of weeks. He went to different cities on his own with his wife. There's also a journalist. Ask him if any women have been dragged off the streets anywhere that he's been to.
So you're denying that the Iranian government forces women to wear the veil, the hijab.
Well, veil is one thing.
I know it is. That's why I corrected myself. And those that don't want
you
to,
mean a headscarf?
The headscarf.
A headscarf.
And those that don't want to cover their hair, it's trouble for them, isn't it?
No, nothing happens to them. No, nothing happens to them. And some of my students on campus, in classrooms on campus, they don't wear headscarves. So I think your understanding.
But is your I'm just trying to get a sense. Is your assertion that in Iran, in the last decade, and even more recently than that, not a single woman, particularly a protesting young woman, has been detained and in one case died in custody with wounds from beating because she had her hair shown?
No,
You don't believe
You're
that
talking
happened?
No. Mahsa Amini had no wounds. There is no footage. There is footage of her, and in the footage, there is nothing that shows that she was beaten. She had a precondition. Yes, she was taken in, but she was not beaten for her dress. There is a law in Iran about a dress code, because whether you like it or not, they believe that the way in which the West promotes women is sexualization, commodification, objectification. So they'll have their own cultural boundaries, whether you agree with it or not.
Well, you've said to me
whether you agree with it or not.
Yeah.
It doesn't. That's one thing. But women being dragged off the streets in Tehran, I've never seen that happen myself.
No, but
this
that
is like
doesn't
when
mean it
they keep
hasn't
saying
happened, does it?
gays in Iran are executed. I've never seen a gay person in Iran executed.
But
this is sort
that doesn't
of
mean it's
myth
never happened. Does it?
No.
Just because you haven't seen a woman being dragged off the streets doesn't mean it hasn't happened.
No, I'm not saying it's never happened.
And you are wrong
like
to
in
say,
London,
if I can just
like
say,
in
you
London,
are wrong to say that Mahsa Amini had no injuries. She had physical injuries, including a skull fracture and brain edema.
No, she didn't. No.
Well, an independent
No,
medical
that's not-
analysis and a UN fact-finding mission determined that she did.
There was no UN fact-finding mission in Iran. Where are you getting this information? What was the name of the UN fact-finding mission team? The name of the person who did this?
I don't have that in front of me, but I can find it for you. But you can say that about any statement that I make.
No, but the thing is that
I could
you
do it
get
back
this.
to you.
No, because you can't, because the point is that you have to give me names. If I say in the UK, people are being arrested for saying no to genocide, for having a billboard in their hands, no to genocide, they're being arrested for that. I have to show footage of it happening. And I have to show the law saying that this is how it's done. And when you tell me that if you tell me, has a woman ever been dragged away? I'll say yes. If you say that have people been beaten on the streets by the police, I'd say yes. In protests and riots, it happens. Well, if you tell me innocent people have died in Iran in prisons, I'd say probably yes.
Well, it's interesting.
But when you tell, and I would say the same about your country as well. And I would say the same about your country. But in your country and in the West, the caricature of Iran is very far from reality. And the reason is because of your country's hatred for Iran, which has been ongoing for 45 years. If Iran was so deeply despised, then it should have collapsed by now, so long ago.
But when you say, you ask
and
me,
then your government and your media is concerned about human rights in Iran, where you support Israel, not you, I mean your government, you support Israel, you help Israel in Gaza, you have the flights that go overhead.
We support the rights of Iranians as well. We support the rights of Iranians.
No, you don't. You actually are a country that tries to harm Iranians because you impose sanctions on ordinary Iranians. The maximum pressure sanctions. Do you think the maximum pressure sanctions a government minister?
You know the reasons.
They're intended to make ordinary people suffer.
You might not like it, but you know the reasons for that. I mean, can I just come back to you on one thing?
What are the reasons? Because since I don't like it, you should tell me. What are the reasons for the sanctions?
The reasons include the proxy terrorist activity that's been, I would argue, I'm sure you are going to disagree with me, but the proxy terrorist activity that Iran has been involved in for decades
What are these
now.
Hezbollah,
who are these Hamas, others arming Syria.
So Hezbollah you consider as a terrorist organization, right?
In part.
No. In part?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Well,
is it a terrorist organization?
In part.
Is it a terrorist
in the same way that
organization or
the
not?
Republican movement in Northern Ireland was in part
No, in the same way
terroristic
that
and
your
in part
government is a
political.
terrorist organization in part. Your
Well,
government is a
that's
terrorist
Is
organization.
that
Well,
your view?
that doesn't make sense.
Is that your
Either
view?
you're a terrorist or you're not.
No, organisations can be partly terroristic and partly political. You know that.
Just for your information, Hezbollah was created out of the Israeli invasion of Lebanon. It was a creation of the occupation. Just like the ANC was a terrorist organization, and Nelson Mandela was a terrorist according to your government standards at the time, Hezbollah was created when the Israelis invaded Lebanon and took Beirut.
But you do know, surely, as an academic, that organisations can be terroristic and political and have wings which are both, and social as well. The Republican movement in Ireland certainly did.
So you're saying that the political wing of Hezbollah is not a terrorist organization?
It has connections to a terrorist organisation, yeah, but it operates on different levels.
So it's not a terrorist organization?
In part, it is.
Look, I know you don't want to answer the question. From our perspective, Hezbollah is a national liberation organization that has recovered the South Lebanon and saved Lebanon from Israeli occupation and colonization. And Hezbollah's sin is that it supports the Palestinian people. Hezbollah has been resisting the Israeli regime, and it opposes the regime and the ethnic cleansing and the genocide. Your government, your media supports the genocide. You like Israel, you like what they do, and you consider them to be in your camp. Obviously, we have huge differences because Hezbollah has not carried out mass slaughter, and Israel has. And your government supports despots, countries that have zero elections, but they're not regimes.
But Hezbollah did carry out mass firing of missiles into Israel as well, just to report a fact back at you.
Israel invaded Lebanon multiple times. It took Beirut, and Israel bombs intentionally apartment blocks in Lebanon. Just today, it destroyed houses in southern Lebanon. Almost every day it carried...
What Professor Marandi exposed was more than a television disagreement. It was a direct challenge to the way Western foreign policy is often framed through the language of human rights. His central argument was simple. Governments cannot claim moral authority while supporting allies accused of serious abuses and continuing to approve massive arms sales across the region. He also challenged the media's use of political labels, arguing that terms like democracy and terrorist organization are often applied selectively depending on Western strategic interests. The contradiction becomes even harder to ignore when billions of dollars in weapons continue flowing into the Middle East, while political leaders publicly speak about protecting civilians and defending human rights. Morandi's broader point was that the same moral standards used to judge Iran, Hezbollah, or other regional actors should also be applied to Western governments and their allies. Once that standard is applied consistently, the narrative becomes much more difficult to defend.